when we distance ourselves from the church and from Christ, there wasn't any meaning in our lives. We tried to kind of numb that pain of the emptiness, because the emptiness hurt. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it hurt.
At that time in my life, the God that I rejected was a vindictive God. It was a God that has a whole bunch of rules, but he's invisible. He never shows himself. So for me, what I put in the place of that God was just the affection that I felt for Jessica. I just said, well, that's love. In the Bible it says God is love, and I have this intense love now for her. So whatever I feel for her, that's what I believe in. Beneath all of my feelings of love for Jessica, there was an intense fear. There was a fear that someday she would die and leave me alone, or I would die and leave her alone, or the love would go away and just leave me without anything to believe in. And so the first thing I turned to was drugs, psychedelic drugs.
We were trying to just enjoy life as much as possible, but it ended up being a lot harder than we thought at that point. We were just kind of drowning ourselves with alcohol and drugs. And for Ben, especially, with his brilliant mind, it didn't work to numb his brain in that way, so there was still a lot of pain of emptiness.
At the end of the day, I often felt suicidal, if these things aren't going to help, and if someday the love is going to go away, what hope is there really? And why even try?
Ben was really close to suicide, and we just were kind of in the pit of despair. Both of us very, very depressed and very anxious. The weight of the world on our shoulders with no ability to pray and no ability to receive grace or hope for a better outcome. It was at that point that I found out I was pregnant.
It seemed like to us, knowing what we knew about the world and all the difficulties that we'd seen in our own lives, this seemed like no place to bring a kid. And Jessica told me she was already thinking about having an abortion, and that seemed right to me too. I told her that I would support her in that decision.
I didn't think that Ben and I would survive the pregnancy. I thought that was just too much for us. So I didn't feel strong enough to carry the baby, and I decided to have an abortion. In some way, in some kind of distorted view of mercy, it seemed like we were doing what was best for the baby because we didn't want to bring the baby into the suffering of this world. But okay, just a sec. It's a decision that we both have regretted very deeply for the rest of our lives, and both carry it close to our hearts. And I think because of that decision and the resulting shame from it, it really cemented us into the darkness we were experiencing. It made it even more impossible for us to think about receiving grace or new life. It just didn't seem plausible in our case.
After the abortion, we decided that the city was killing us, that we needed to get out west. where life would be simpler. So we loaded up a truck and moved out to Utah. But what I found at the end of the day was that the same person was meeting me in the mirror out west.
Eventually we met a lot of beautiful hippie friends, and so we were just kind of in this marijuana-soaked life where we were just trying to kind of escape life and escape everything.
We had an old Volkswagen bus. We'd go out in the desert for like weeks at a time and just like do drugs and camp out every night. You know, I felt like at least my life was honest, you know. Maybe the world was burning and there were all sorts of people suffering, but at least someone was having a good time, you know. So maybe that made it all okay somehow.
I really wanted to help people and change the world, but I was becoming more and more broken up and ineffective at that as the time went by. So it gave me a sense of hopelessness and despair to think of the world because I wasn't in a place to do anything.
We tried all sorts of things. I mean, I would clean up. I wouldn't do drugs for 6 months, and I would find myself compulsively shopping, just buying all sorts of clothes, buying furniture, buying a new car. I bought an Audi, buying a house, going to Europe. When that didn't work, I started gambling. I went to casinos. You know, I blew $1,000 in a night. I tried meditation for a long time. Occasionally I would pray. I tried reading the Bible a little bit, but I couldn't really believe it. And I feel like none of them really fixed the root brokenness of our lives.
I feel like the decisions that I made kind of prevented me from searching out God for in a really diligent way because I was ashamed and I didn't expect grace from God. In some ways, I was looking for punishment.
When I was in medical school, I remember reading about the cycle of abuse, that in abusive relationships, there's like a honeymoon period, kind of making up for all the bad stuff, and then the bad stuff happens again, and then the honeymoon period happens again. And I recognized that in my own life, but I didn't see any way out of that cycle. It was just something, again, that we all experienced. There was no way that I could find to end it.